Midoriya. The voice of Momo Yaoi Orozu questioned, catching Tsuayu's attention as she put her books in her bag. Do you have some time to talk? Thankful that her quirk made her emotions so difficult to read, Tsuayu turned her head to study both her fellow recruit and the back of their potential worst enemy. Izuku's eyes darted to hers. He blinked twice. What do I do? She raised an eyebrow in response. Find out what she wants, but don't commit to anything, I guess, Izuku said aloud, turning his eyes back to Momo. I'll need to check the train schedule for the next one available, but I can make it work. Why? If transportation is a concern, I can provide such to get you home, Momo offered. I simply want to pick your brain about my quirk. Knowing that Izuku could see her, Tsuayu gave a quick, subtle nod. Even if it cut into their scheduled training, this was a prime opportunity to learn more about a target of interest. Oh, Izuku blinked again. Yeah, I can do that. I just have to text my mom that I'll be back a little late. Of course. Izuku pulled out his phone, the device beeping to show he'd activated his tracking function. Tsuayu felt her own phone vibrate in response. So, where do you want to talk? I know this delightful little restaurant we can go to, Momo answered. I'm inviting you out of the blue, so I'll cover the cost if that's okay. No, that's fine. We can go wherever you want. Izuku gathered his things and followed the class president out the door. Tsuayu watched them go, trailing behind them calmly until they reached the gate. A limo picked them up, cutting off her chance of tracking them. Though worry buzzed inside her, she was mollified that Izuku could handle himself, that Momo was, as far as they could tell, not yet a Templar, that she had no known reason to suspect Izuku of anything, and that he's activated his tracker. Still, someone would need to explain the situation to Master Aizawa about why the recruit who had been in recovery for the weekend would also not be at training the first day he could. Accepting such a role since she was the only one that could, Tsuayu walked away from the school. The streets were moderately busy that day, the frog girl coming to an intersection with a jumbo screen set to the local news station. In other news, the female news anchor said, Japan is now mourning the loss of 2 of its top 100 heroes. The bodies of Mineta Arashi, Stormer, ranked 65th, and Ito Tsubasa, Rage Cage, ranked 87th, were found yesterday near the ports of Nagoya. The bodies were found in separate alleyways, one with a puncture through the heart and the other with the neck's arteries cut. These injuries are similar to those found on 9 other murdered heroes in the last 2 months. The police are now calling whoever did this the hero killer. If anyone has information on the hero killer's whereabouts and reasons, please contact the police. Both heroes were based out of Nagoya and strived to bring peace to the world. Stormer and Rage Cage had been engaged with their wedding set for next January. They will be missed. On a happier note. Tsuayu tuned out the broadcast, redirecting her thoughts should there be a mind-reading quirk in the crowd, rare as they were. It would not do for some random person to learn that she had been there when 2 heroes were assassinated. Finally reaching her goal, Tsuayu ducked into an alley. She was the shortest member of 1A with the expulsion of Minoru Mineta, so no one paid attention when she separated from the crowd and stepped behind a nearby dumpster. When she was certain no one was looking, she slid beneath it, falling into the portal below. The toadish face of her father greeted her on the other side. Assassin Master Ganma Asu was only half a foot taller than his eldest child, his mutation-type quirk, Toad, having a much more pronounced effect on his looks than Tsuayu's frog. His skin was yellowish-brown in color, covered in bumps and ridges and topped with short, black hair. He was dressed in an assassin's robe the color of pond scum. While it wasn't the prettiest color, Ganma felt it represented their life's mission, to do the dirty work so others didn't need to. Tsu, he smiled. Hi Dad. He opened his arms, Tsuayu happily accepting and reciprocating the hug. He was always here in the portal room when she arrived from school, ready to assist her if something happened. How was school? Fine, Ribbit. Tsuayu answered. Actually, I need to speak to Master Aizawa as soon as possible. Nothing's immediately wrong, Ribbit, but he needs to know that recruit Midoriya won't be at training today. I understand. Ganma released her, his daughter gracing him with a smile before she moved around him toward the changing rooms. Tsuayu found Master Aizawa in the same room she always did. He was cleaning his bracers, rubbing the leather and metal with oil piece by piece. He did not look up as she entered, the recruit stopping before him. How are you doing? Recruit. Aizawa asked. Recruit Midoriya will not be at training today. Ribbit. Aizawa paused, finally looking up at her. His one visible eye blinked. Why? He was invited to a meal by Momo Yaoi Orozu to discuss her quirk. Ribbit. He was quick to activate his tracker before going with her. That is a dangerous gamble. Aizawa frowned, his hand beginning to reconstruct his hidden blade. She might not be a Templar yet, but that could change at any time. Not only that, but Midoriya's injuries from the USJ attack resulted in her, alongside Uraraka and Sato, seeing the hook blade Midoriya had sewn into his hero costume. She possesses an intelligent mind, and I have no doubt that she will suspect Midoriya of being an assassin when she learns of our struggle. What was he thinking? Part of the blame lies with me, Master, Tsuyu admitted. When she first asked Midoriya if he was available, I advised him to probe for her motives and to ultimately accept. Ribbit. I doubt Yaoi Orozu is of any mindset to put recruit Midoriya in any risk, though she may unknowingly. I do not believe anyone would act with her around. With her lack of knowledge, attacking recruit Midoriya is too high profile. I saw this as a good opportunity to get a read on how much she may know and where her ideals currently lie. Ribbit. Aizawa quirked an eyebrow at the explanation, strapping his rebuilt bracer to his arm. You think that recruit Midoriya may be able to change her loyalties? I don't know about that, Tsuyu said, but she might reveal important information without knowing its worth. Ribbit. I trust Midoriya to be both cautious and safe. We will have words about the recklessness both of you have shown, Aizawa muttered, walking to the door. He opened it, grabbing the arm of the first assassin to walk by. Find Keeper and tell him his little green project has gotten himself in a potential code blank situation. Then go to Mentor and tell him what you told Keeper. Of course, Master, the assassin bowed, taking to the rafters and hopping away. Aizawa sighed, rubbing his face with a hand. Teaching is so stressful, he breathed to himself. Recruit Asu, I understand that the smoothness of the operation on Friday might have convinced you that Templars are only dangerous in large groups. But you must remember that you had 4 master assassins on that mission in order to protect you and the other recruits. This impromptu mission you've sent recruit Midoriya on is risky, and you did not have the authority to authorize such a thing. Should something go wrong, it could risk not only recruit Midoriya's hero career, but his life and the rest of the Brotherhood as well. He turned, finding Tsuyu staring at him with fear swimming in her large eyes. I'm sorry, Master, she croaked, looking down. I didn't think there would be so much danger involved. She blinked as Aizawa's hand rested on her head, the young recruit looking up at him. Though Aizawa was not smiling, that was not to be considered a sign of worry, for he never smiled. Rather, his face held understanding. Guilt and forgiveness will have to wait until we see the outcome of this risk you and recruit Midoriya have taken. I've sent word to Keeper, so at least Midoriya will have some backup should the worst happen. Now, we can control nothing and must give it time, but we shall not wallow it away. We have training to get to, with or without. Master Aizawa. A voice called, a female assassin a year or two older than Tsuyu, all but crashing into the doorframe. Master Aizawa, I come bearing news. What is it? Haya the man questioned. The assassin caught her breath, raising her head to show short hair dyed salmon and stud piercings in her ears. As she looked toward them, Tsuyu noticed that her eyes were reddish-brown, though the rest of her face was rather plain. Her robes were a dark pink interwoven with yellow and blue highlights, the frog girl mentally going too far as to consider them cute. Medic Faye sent me to get you, Master. The woman from the docks has woken up. We'll be right there. Receiving a nod, Haya stepped aside. Aizawa strode past her quickly, his robes flapping and with Tsuyu quick to follow. They hurried through the hallways, several twists and turns bringing them to the dense care center. He stepping inside without preamble. There was shouting. A small group of assassins, some injured and others the barebones medical staff, were blocking off a mocha-skinned woman in an American flag shirt in a corner. She glared at the crowd, holding a heart monitor over her head, said woman demanding answers in English. Each of the assassins glanced at each other, none of them having a comprehensive grasp on the language. Aizawa walked forward, setting his hand on the shoulder of one of the medics and shifting them to the side. Tsuyu walked in his shadow, both bypassing the crowd. Who the hell are you? The woman questioned, turning her eyes on the pale man. He raised his hands in the universal sign of peace. Easy, he said in slow English. We know you were kidnapped from America and shipped here, but we managed to get you out, where am I? Who are you all? You are in Japan. Aizawa answered. My name is Shota Aizawa. I was one of the ones who lead the warehouse raid when we find you in a box. You are safe here. I don't know if I can trust you. The woman said, tears building in her eyes. I do not know what happened when they take you. The assassin muttered, they are Templars, an order that wants to force peace on the world through force. We are the Brotherhood, the enemies of Templars. He gestured to Tsuyu next to him, the girl stepping forward and falling to one knee. This is one of students of mine named Tsuyu Asu. She and one other wants to find you and get you out. Though only having a cursory knowledge of English, Tsuyu still recognized the sound of her name, the girl looking up and nodding. Her large, green eyes met startling blue, the woman's irises like two shining sapphires. Locking eyes with this girl, with this child, caused the woman to slowly lower the machine and set it aside. Tsuyu turned to Aizawa, a question in her eyes that he answered with a nod. Receiving permission, Tsuyu stood and walked over, her arms out to her sides where the American could see them at all times. She stopped a couple feet from their guest, offering a hand in what she knew to be a handshake. Tsuyu Asu, the recruit croaked. Hesitantly, the woman responded in kind, taking her hand. Nasha, she said. Nasha Garcia. Ms. Garcia, Aizawa said. Asu does not speak much English. She is first-year high school student at school where I teach. She likely know just enough to follow. I hope you don't teach English. Nasha tried to joke. Aizawa shook his head. I am a homeroom teacher. Very important. Ms. Garcia, do you want to go somewhere more private to talk? Recruit Asu will be with us. Nasha did not verbally respond, only nodding. Tsuyu gently tugged on her hand, leading the American as the crowd parted. Asu, lead her to the lounge. You, make sure mentor knows about this. Her name is Nasha Garcia and it's likely she has nowhere to go. Have someone make contact with the American Brotherhood and track down her history. They should have prevented this and dropped the ball. I want to know why. Yes, master, the assassin bowed. Aizawa followed the pair of women, listening as Tsuyu tried and failed to talk to Nasha with what little English she knew from present mixed classes. They reached the room after several minutes, Nasha seemingly surprised at the homely atmosphere after the bleak, gray walls of the hallways. Tsuyu directed her to the couch, sitting at her side, while Aizawa walked to the fridge. Miss Garcia, would you like water or tea or coffee or soda? Water, please. Aizawa nodded, pulling a bottle from the cold before walking over to hand it to her. Nasha studied it for a moment before confirming that the seal was still intact and that it did not appear to be tampered with in any way. She opened it, wetting her throat. Wish Midoriya here. Tsuyu commented. He speak English very more good than me and Master Aizawa. No, it's okay. Nasha insisted. She turned to the only man present. You're Aizawa, right? Yes, I am Shota Aizawa. All right, Shota. She said, jumping ahead to use his given name as Westerners did. You said the guys who took me were called Templars? Are we talking about the Knights Templar from the old myths? That is correct, Ms. Garcia. They exist since the Crusades, but the Brotherhood fight such people for longer. We also want peace, but more value freedom of choice. We want people to come together because they want to, not because a gun in the back and a knife at the throat. We are sorry you get pulled into this. What happened? Why you? I don't know. The American answered. I'm from California, half Japanese myself. Actually, according to my mom, I've never met my real dad, but mom always said he was an up-and-coming hero. They never got married. I don't even know if mom told him about me. She married Jamie when I was in middle. Shit, Simon, I need to get back. You be here for 3 days now. Aizawa told her. We rescue you Friday night. Today Monday. After we get your name, I put a man on the job to contact America and learn what happened. And. She pressed. Need time. Can you tell us? She paused, her grip tightening on her water. I'm 24 and I work as a barista. I make coffee, she added, seeing Aizawa's confused face at her job title. I just graduated from college with a business degree and was working on finding a more permanent job so I could move out. It was getting awkward at home since mom and Jamie wanted another kid, saying Simon would get lonely after I left. I think they just wanted me to move out faster. Anyway. Aizawa prompted. Right. So I was applying to all these different places and a few of them sent someone to our house to verify my info. They'd talk to my mom for a while and leave. That's all I thought there was to it. Then one night I wake up to find some guy leaning over my bed. I screamed, but he put this cloth over my mouth. It must have had chloroform or something because I passed out soon after. Now I'm here. If I can ask, you apply to a company named Abstergo. Of course. Abstergo is one of the biggest companies in the world. They're always looking for more help. That how they find you. Abstergo controlled by Templars. You have something they want. What is it? Powerful quirk. As if. Nasha spat. I don't have a quirk. Mom can make a ghost dog and my real dad is apparently a pro here in Japan. But all I can do is lift normal weights and punch the fuckers that mess with me about it. She shook her head. I'm sure there's someone in the States looking for me, but it looks like I'll be here for a bit. So, what about you all? This brotherhood of yours seems patriarchal and outdated to me. The brotherhood supposedly almost as old as pyramids. Aizawa began. We earn name assassins because we remove Templars from power when they try to force the people to take away people's will. Assassins. Nasha echoed, turning her gaze from Aizawa to Tsuyu. The girl could be no older than 16, yet here she was in an outfit similar in style to her conversation partner. You're killers. We do what we need to. The black-haired man nodded. We save people like you while we do. Nasha stood on these words, silent. Aizawa watched her, looking for any sign that she would reject them for their mission even if they rescued her. A soft knock sounded from the doorway. Teacher and student looking over to see keeper in casual clothing. He grinned. I hope I'm not interrupting something, he said. No, you aren't, Aizawa answered. I trust Midoriya is safe. Even better than that, I've got something to show you. Keeper pulled a phone out of his pocket and walked toward them, offering the phone to the master assassin. Tsuyu stood from Nasha's side, stepping over to see the screen over Aizawa's shoulder. It showed a video, her teacher tapping the play button. The first thing to appear was Izuku in a nice suit with a red tie. The boy speaking to Momo who stood in the doorway of the same limo Tsuyu had seen them get into. His UA uniform was draped over his shoulder. Are you certain? Momo questioned. Another block is no trouble. I'm sure, Izuku insisted. My mom cries about everything, good or bad. If it's something that makes her happy, she cries enough to cause water damage. I think it's better I'm able to warn her and not just show up looking like this. She'd flood the apartment and then we'd have to pay for the damages. Were that to happen, I'd take responsibility for it, the girl said, bending at the waist so she could be more eye level with her classmate. The action, however, didn't make her eyes level but rather something else. I would be the source of the problem, after all. And no, you don't need to. Izuku waved his arms before him, the act looking silly in his new finery. He turned his head away. I could never ask you for something like that, Yao. Momo. If you are sure, then I will see you for class tomorrow. I wish you a pleasant evening, Izuku. She backed into the limo, the chauffeur closing the door behind her. With the students separated, the tusked man turned his eyes on Izuku. He raised his hand, 2 fingers pointing at his own eyes only for him to rotate his hand to aim them at the boy. Izuku swallowed, but that was all the chauffeur did. The man stepping into the cab and driving away. Izuku relaxed only when they were out of sight. He took a moment to recollect himself before pulling out his phone. Typing a number, he held it up to his ear. Hi, Mom, he said into the device. No, I'm okay. I just wanted to let you know I'll be home a little early today. It's not for a bad reason. I didn't get in a fight or anything. Mom, let me talk. Mom, no, why would you even think that? He stood there for several seconds, a hand covering his blushing face as he tried to get a word in. Mom, listen to me. I need you to meet me outside. Yes, it's important that we're outside. Yes, you're going to cry. No, I didn't get a girlfriend. Would you stop suggesting that? Mom, stop crying. You're going to flood the kitchen. That's why I need you to go outside before I get home. Jeez. He waited, slowly starting to make his way down the street. Are you outside, Mom? He questioned. Okay. Now go to the sidewalk. Mom, just listen to me. Yes, I'm going to explain, but I can't have you making a waterfall from the 4th floor. Yes, you would. Yes, you would. I've seen you do it before. Okay, okay, yeah, I'll be home in a minute. I love you, too. Izuku hung up, slipping his phone into his pocket. He breathed, the boy trying to release the tension in his shoulders. Setting them back with determination, he picked up his pace, the camera shaking a little as Keeper slowly followed to keep him in the frame. A short woman, presumably his mother, was just reaching the sidewalk when he rounded the corner. She apparently heard his footsteps, turning to look at him. Izuku, you're wearing a suit. She gasped to herself, her hands rising to her mouth. Izuku kept his distance, a hand coming up to scratch the back of his head. Oh Izuku, did you elope? Wah, Mom, no. Izuku yelled, stop it with the relationship stuff. Sorry. His mother sniffed, wiping her tears away. What did you want to tell me? Well, I need to explain where the suit came from. Remember I told you my classmates caught wind of my quirk analysis and wanted my help. She nodded. Well, one of those classmates is really rich and asked me to analyze their quirk over a meal, but the restaurant she picked turned out to be too fancy for normal clothes and I had to change. Wait, the restaurant she picked. Miss Midoriya questioned, obviously disregarding such information like said classmate being rich enough to give her son a suit for a spur-of-the-moment invitation in favor of said classmate being a girl. Tears rolled down her face, building in intensity until there was a literal stream flowing over the concrete, into the street, and down the drain. A man waking his dog in the background saw this and turned around. My baby's coming home from a date. A date he was asked to. It wasn't a date. Izuku denied, but there was no hope of stopping the woman. The video did not show his front, but the viewers could tell his hands were rising to hold his probably blushing face. He groaned, Moom. His mother seemed to war with herself, her hands reaching for Izuku only to pull back. If Tsuyu knew anything about mothers from her own, she suspected Ms. Midoriya wanted to run up to hug her son but was well aware that doing so would soak his suit with her tears. Despite the woman trying to control it, she was still crying far more than any logical amount humans should be able to. If Izuku had the same ability, the Midoriyas were very hydrated. Eventually, her emotions won out over her logic, the woman rushing forward. Oh, my baby's growing up. Mom, the Sue. The video cut off there. Keeper was apparently reliving the moment itself in his head, the man against the wall in the throngs of laughter. Tsuyu was also letting out mirthful ribbits, concluding that Izuku's mother was a wonderful woman she'd like to meet. Aizawa let out a relieved breath, serious as ever. I'm glad to see that you didn't get Recruit Midoriya killed. Recruit Asu, he said, cutting off the frog girl's chuckles. She went straight, snapping to attention at the tone of his voice. Cut her some slack, Keeper told him, taking back his phone. I know it wasn't the best call, but they're just kids, and you've got to admit that's a pretty funny video. I'm thinking of posting it to our secure server. Really? Aizawa deadpanned. No, but I'm not adverse to sharing it with some of the trainers. Usagi Ayama is gonna have a field day with him next time he comes in. And don't even get me started on Nekoi. Yes, it appears his dangerous outing went well. I hope he was able to glean some useful knowledge from it. What happened, Shota? Nasha asked, the assassins looking over at her as if they'd forgotten she was there. Recruit Asu mentioned Recruit Midoriya before. Aizawa began. He is not here because Asu sent him on a dangerous outing with a potential Templar. Keeper just show us a video of his safe return. It's pretty damn funny. Keeper said in perfect English. He extended his hand to the woman. The folks round here call me Keeper, Nasha Garcia. She responded, your English is really good, Keeper. My mother's from West Virginia. Dottie explained she might have emigrated, but she never forgot her roots, and she wouldn't let me grow up without knowing 'em either. Not that I get a lot of practice with real English. How does she go from the mountain state to Japan? When your quirks controlling Sakura petals, you either make a small space where it's effective or you move somewhere where it already is. Full stop. He shrugged, grinning. I'm not complainin'. Nasha grinned only to pull away. You're also a killer, aren't you? Shota told me about you all. Then he also told you about the Templars, right? Once we get all this sorted out, you can go back to your normal life. With my quirk, memory loss, I can make this all feel like a bad night of drinking and you can be on your way. If you want, that is. She hesitated. I don't know. No rush. Besides, we gotta find out why the Templars wanted you in the first place so we can keep you safe going forward. If you're gonna be around for a while, I think we should introduce you to our mentor. He needs to know everything that happens with us for the best of the Brotherhood. I'll translate for you. Thanks. She turned to Aizawa and Tsuyu. I guess I'll be seeing you two around. Then, could you let me know as soon as they find anything? You have my promise. Aizawa replied. Accepting that, Nasha and Keeper took their leave. With them gone, Aizawa turned to his student. Well, what are you waiting for? We have training to get to. Yes, Master. Ribbit. Dear. Okame Yaoi Orozu called, setting the phone she'd just hung up back on the platter held by a servant who bowed and left. When Kanri did not respond, she turned, walking over to her husband's private office. Her knuckles thumped against the imported redwood thrice, but there was no answer. Dear, are you in here? Checking the handle, she found it unlocked and let herself in. Rather than her well-groomed husband and a meticulously maintained office space, Okame stepped into an empty, trashed room. Papers were scattered over the polished hardwood floor, a headless lion-shaped bookend sitting on the desk alongside a broken lamp and a couple reports. The plush chair Kanri favored sat on its side. Autumn sighed at the destruction. Shaking her head, the woman raised her hand and blew across her palm. Dandelion fluffs sprouted from her hand and floated away until they landed, rapidly growing into a trail from a hallway to the door. The servants would recognize the image as a call to clean the office. Her mark left, she stepped into the office proper. Her first act was to pick up the poor bookend. It was only the front half of the lion and made of cherry, the wood polished to maintain his lovely smell. Okame cradled the item, focusing her quirk as the head of the lion slowly regrew. Much of what they owned was wood on account Kanri's anger spells and her quirk that could repair the damage before either of their children saw. Okame replaced the bookend on the top shelf before reaching lower, taking hold of a thumb-width book spine decorated with the Templar cross. The book clicked as she depressed a button on its top. The bookcase rose just a touch, the woman pulling on it to swing it outward like a door. Hidden behind the secret opening was a spiral staircase that circled around a fire pole. Okame, being a high-class lady of considerable elegance and poise, refused to use such means, but her husband favored such when he was too impatient to simply walk. She made her way down the stairs, the bookshelf closing behind her. The familiar yelling of Kanri reached her ears as she stepped off the stairwell a good 2 stories below ground. The tunnel was lit only by the light from the room beyond, Okame following this path to its end. It was a room that held most of their Templar gear and information, including official uniforms for such meetings and diagrams of suspected enemies and conspiracy connections they were attempting to track. But the majority of the room was for personal training. The latter was the room's current function. Mother fucking assassins. Kanri hissed, his cutlass cutting the head off a wooden mannequin. Similar copies in various states of dismemberment littered the ground around him. He spun, metal singing through the air as he brought the sword down to jam it into the fallen torso of a mostly intact model. Panting, he left the sword in the wood and stood, sweat dripping down his neck into his simple clothing. He pulled a small towel from his belt and wiped down his face. I hope you have good news, darling. I could use some. I have potentially good news, she responded, stepping up to him. That can wait, though. I want to know what's got you up in arms. I received the report from the warehouse fire on Friday, he growled, turning his back to her. It rippled with muscles under his white tank top. We knew that the goddamn assassins got away with a cache of metal, but we'd thought the most expensive cargo had been destroyed in the fire. We were wrong. But the body, was male, he said, cutting her off. One of the guards, most likely. We were too busy covering everything up to properly check the corpse. The assassins have the girl. We need her. Do you think I don't know that? Kanri roared, grabbing the handle of his cutlass. Rather than ripping the blade out of its wooden confines, a copy of the sword came up, leaving the original in place. The Templar spun, throwing the sword at a board that had a picture of a young woman with mocha-colored skin and blue eyes. We must get hold of her again. She has genetic memories we need. We cannot fail him. He sighed, one hand coming to his side as she felt a scar hidden under his clothing. Not again. Darling, we will find her again in due time, Okame said, setting her arms on Kanri's shoulders. He relaxed slowly under her touch. As his tension drained away, he turned, raising one hand to cup his wife's cheek. What news did you bring? Dottie asked. Momo went to La Croix de la Sagesse for a meal after school today. That is nothing new, sweetheart. She brought company. Canary opened his eyes, one eyebrow rising with the information. His dark eyes sparked. Oh, Dottie said. Do tell. I trust the maitre d' was willing to give you a name. Of course he was, his wife said with a sing-song tone. One Izuku Midoriya. The boy that rescued her during the attack. Canary recalled. She certainly didn't waste any time after telling us. That's not the only thing, Okame continued. She went to meet Dr. Garaki directly afterward with questions about her quirk. She'd asked that boy to analyze what he'd seen her do, how it worked, and what it could possibly do in the future. He theorized her creation process as we know it was all wrong, and Garaki confirmed it. Momo doesn't use her lipids to create items. The bulk of her creations are transmuted from the air itself. And that boy deduced all of that from only a couple weeks and no tests. Her husband questioned. That's amazing. He'd need to possess a special kind of intelligence to deduce such a thing without the proper equipment. I agree. Okame nodded. A mind like that could turn the tide of our lifelong battle. Not only that, but he could also make our Momo very happy for the rest of her life. Why is a boy like that in a hero course? Not that I'm complaining. Momo never would have met him otherwise, but we'll need to keep an eye of him. This Midoriya almost sounds too good to be true. The UA Sports Festival is coming, his wife reminded him. We can use that to size up the boy. If he does well enough, that will be ample cause for us to have Momo bring him to a family gathering. An excellent idea, my love. Canary grinned. An excellent idea.